Hi, I'm Max Brantley with the Arkansas Times on Monday, June the 13th. I will indirectly quote President Obama in saying that when a terrible thing happens to any segment of the community, it happens to all of us in the United States, and that was certainly the case in the early morning hours of Sunday in Orlando, Florida, when a man named Omar Mateen took semi-automatic weapons into a crowded nightclub patronized heavily by gay people and opened fire. He killed 49 people. He shot more than 50 others. He himself was killed when police finally ended the hostage situation. There's naturally going to be political fallout from this. Immediately, it gave the two leading presidential candidates a chance to demonstrate their presidential timber. Media commentators say Hillary Clinton responded well to the call. She gave a presidential talk. She talked about ways to step up efforts to find lone wolf terrorists, because this isn't something that calls for a military response. We have to deal with the causes of people who individually can do great violence merely by legally purchasing a semi-automatic rifle, as this man did. Donald Trump, on the other hand's first comments were to make the unbelievable assertion that perhaps somehow President Obama had some role in encouraging Islamic terrorists, and raised again the old canard that somehow Obama must be a Muslim himself. It was another bad performance by Trump, although in a later speech in the afternoon, he took a somewhat milder tone. We're going to talk a lot in the days ahead about the religion of Islam and about the radical elements within it. We're going to talk about gun safety and gun control. Hillary Clinton did say she thought that we don't need military weapons on the streets. Indeed, they're mostly used for mass killing, not for defense. They're certainly not used for hunting rabbits. We're going to talk about immigration. An element missing in a lot of discussion, particularly locally in Arkansas, was the element that this attack targeted the gay community, and indeed that seemed to have been the point based on statements of relatives and other evidence. The top politicians in Arkansas, Governor Asa Hutchinson, and members of Congress, of course, expressed the standard thoughts and prayers for the victims. Several of them talked about the need to do something about Islamic terrorism. Nobody gave a word of acknowledgement about the special terror this caused in the LGBT community. President Obama did, because clearly this is a group that feels discrimination. It feels discrimination in Arkansas. The top leaders in Arkansas, the Republican legislature, the governor and congressman, favor legal discrimination against gay people. They oppose laws that will treat them equally. They certainly don't advocate violence against gay people, but in a world in which we urge treatment of certain citizens as second-class citizens, it makes them more vulnerable to all kinds of attacks, and I think that's something we need to think more about as we go forward. It happens that Friday, faith leaders in Arkansas sent a letter to Governor Hutchinson telling him how dismayed they were that he had urged people in Arkansas to ignore President Obama's guidance that says that federal law, both court rulings and agency rules, say that people must be treated equally according to gender, including transgender people who've adopted a gender different from that they had at birth. Nobody covered this, I might notice, in the other media except for the Arkansas blog. They didn't get the coverage that conservative religious leaders got when they applauded the governor for encouraging discrimination against gay people. I think that gives you some indication of where we are as a nation. A long way to go. Elsewhere, the Supreme Court of the United States today said it would not stop an EPA rule that toughens the standards on emissions of mercury and other pollutants from power plants. The Attorney General of Arkansas, Leslie Rutledge, who's a friend of easier pollution rules, she says it's good for business, had fought this ruling, but it's going to take place despite her objections. Acxiom, the big tech company that has a 12-story building in downtown Little Rock, says that building is for sale. It says it only needs about one floor. The 12 floors for permanent workers. The work has changed and its needs have changed. Too bad we didn't know about this back when the tech park was spending $20 million in taxpayer money to buy some old buildings downtown, to tear them down and build new ones, to supposedly begin a great new tech enterprise in Little Rock. Isn't that what Acxiom was supposed to do? Speaking of Asa Hutchinson, he went on TV Sunday and talked about how he'd fulfilled a great number of campaign promises and accomplished everything he set out to do. The Democratic Party took pains to note today that he didn't do that without their help, and he didn't do it without Obamacare money, particularly something that the Republican Party ran for office against with some great success in 2014. He also didn't boast that the state's med center gets less support from the state than just about any other med center in the country you can name, including in such poor states as Mississippi. This is because he's starved the state budget so as to take money for tax cuts for wealthy people and to take general revenues, for example, to build highways. someday all this is going to come to a crashing halt, I believe, unless there's uncommon prosperity here. Perhaps that will happen. Also in the governor's office, John Gilmore, who was his campaign manager and has made $105,000 a year, is his chief deputy, chief of staff, is leaving the office to be a political consultant. My bet is he'll find some work in Arkansas among Republican politicians. Friends of the governor do tend to be able to do that. Here's a funny note. The city of Little Rock is going to spend $1 million to build a roundabout, or a traffic circle if you prefer, at Fair Park Boulevard and Zoo Drive. This is a busy road during the rush hour in morning and afternoon. I predict this could cause some confounding for people who will not be humming Penny Lane as they go through that scenic roundabout. But this is a European way of doing things. Perhaps we'll get used to it after all. And David Buster's, the Fern bar on steroids that got started in Little Rock from the combination of Slick Willie's and Buster's many years ago, is going to open out near Otter Creek this week and employ some 250 people. They're going to sell chicken wings and the usual Fern bar fare. Their big take is machines that drag money out of your pocket by the bucket load to play video games and that sort of thing. It's gambling, but your rewards are various bits of merchandise, not money. The merchandise is worth a little bit more than it used to be, thanks to the law passed by Jeremy Hutchins to help get Dave and Buster's in business out there. So if you want some chicken wings and to lose some money trying to win some kind of play pretty in a crane machine or the modern day equivalent, Dave and Buster's is now open. I'm Max Brantley. I'll be back tomorrow.